Okay, welcome back to my overview of Shadow of the Demon Lord, the somewhat new RPG that I just recently discovered. If you have not seen part one, I recommend it. Well, at least if you're going to watch this one, because we are going to jump halfway through the book at this point to move on, and we're going to begin talking about magic. The wonderful, wonderful magic system. So, before I get into that, since I'm skipping through the equipment chapter here, one of the things that bothered me and the people I played with about Warhammer 2nd Edition was the monetary system. I don't even know if I'm gonna... Oh yeah, here it is. I skipped right to it. It's like it was ordained. So the monetary exchange rate in the Warhammer book, in the setting, is 1 gold crown is 20 silver shillings, which is 240 brass pennies. Because 1 silver shilling is 12 brass pennies. Why? Why do that? That just always bothered us, because it was like, okay, how many pennies, and 12 pennies is a shilling, 20 shillings is a gold, and it's like breaking apart a gold into pennies is like, oh my god. Here, way more simple. It's just 10, 10, 10. So 10 bits is 1 copper penny. 10 copper penny is a silver shilling. 10 silver shillings is a gold crown. That's very simple, easy, done. And D&D has done that for years, and it set the standard. Warhammer just had to be different. I don't know. Yeah, so that's good. Aside from that, there's not really anything to say about the equipment thing. It's fairly standard. There are guns in the book, in the default setting. There are pistols and rifles. I believe they're single shot, as far as I understand it. I don't think it talks about them at length. But I guess it's single shot, but that's fine. It's always cool to have that. And everything else is pretty much standard. You know, a basic club does 1d6 damage. A battle axe does 1d6 plus 2. A great axe does 3d6, so that's where it sort of tops out. And you have to have 13 strength or higher to use a great axe. But if you don't have 13 strength, you take a bane whenever you use it, or maybe 2 banes. But either way, you know, again, it's just I believe. Maybe I'm wrong. Why is it... I mean, by default, those weapons are cumbersome, which means you attack with a bane no matter what. But maybe you can't lift them unless you have the strength. For armor, there's also strength requirements, and if you don't meet that, you can still use it, but you get banes for all strength and agility rolls. So it's not exactly recommended, but if you're not planning to do much and you just want to tank through some situation, I guess you could throw on some plate mail or something. That's pretty funny. Because full plate gives you 18 defense. That's pretty good. And you have to have 15 or strength or higher normally. Huh. Anyways, we want to get into magic. Oh, before I get into that, potions. Potions are actually fairly widespread in this game. Or at least they seem fairly... I mean, the availability that it lists for potions is like rare or uncommon or exotic. I don't know exactly what it means to be uncommon. Like, how hard do you have to look to find an uncommon potion? I don't even know if it talks. Oh, here it is. Uncommon. Items require specialized training to produce and are thus available only in communities with populations of 1,000 or more. And rare is 5,000 or more. Exotic is 10,000 or more. So some of these you're not going to find in just the shit village out in the wilderness. But if you're in a city, you can stock up on potions. And the prices for some of these don't seem that outrageous. A healing potion, which is uncommon. So you can find these, in a lot of places. You can have them made at least. 2 silver shillings each. And you just drink it, and it lets you heal damage equal to your healing rate, which normally is 1/4 of your max HP. So, boom, 2 silver shillings, you drink it, and there you go. You gain 1/4 your HP back. You could have just like a fucking bandolier of healing potions, but some of them are really cool. Like growth potion. This is 5 silver shillings, but it's exotic, so you're not going to find it. You're only going to find it in the big cities. But when you drink a growth potion, your size increases to 2, or increases by 1 if you're already 2 or larger. You gain a 2d6 bonus to health, and your weapon attacks deal 1d6 extra damage. It wears off after 1d6 minutes. So, yeah, when you get some money and you visit a city, I could see your warrior, your berserker or whatever, buying just like 5 growth potions and popping them whenever they go into battle. Because it's just like, and, you gain health, you gain extra damage, and really no downside. Scene potion lets you see in darkness. Fire resistance potions. Really, like potions in fantasy games that I've played up to this point in my life, potions were only like rare things that you found in like cultist thing. Like they were usually like a plot point or something like that. Like I've never purchased a healing potion in any fantasy game I've played. Now that could just be DM choice or something like that. But I feel like this could be the one game where it's like, it's deadly enough and they're available enough that you would buy healing potions. So that's cool. And they also discuss incantations, which are like scrolls or tablets that have magic spells written on them. So you can find those and use them as if you were casting a spell, which is pretty cool. Alright, magic. Alright, so, as mentioned, there are 30 different traditions in the core rulebook of magic, which are akin to schools of magic. So you have fire magic, illusion magic, rune magic, primal magic, transformation magic, so on and so forth. And occasionally, depending on your novice path, expert path, master path, whatever, it will tell you that you can learn a new tradition, you can learn a new spell within a tradition you already have learned, or you have the option of learning a new tradition or learning a spell. And so when you learn a new tradition, you learn 1 level 0 spell within that tradition. These are like pretty much cantrips. These are the weakest form of magic within that tradition. But you no matter what, when you learn a new tradition, you get a spell. You get something. If you are a magician as your novice path, when you learn a new tradition, you get both level 0 spells, because there's always 2. I think it says you get to learn another level 0 spell, because I think some of the supplements add more level 0 spells to tradition, so you don't get all of them, but you get 2. So what this means is, depending on the options you choose for your paths, you can branch out far and wide. And so if you want to be a magician that levels up and you want to learn as many different types of magic as possible, you can branch out and learn all sorts of traditions and learn like their basic magics. Because remember, at level 1 for a magician, you can learn 4 traditions if you want. So you can either learn 1 and go pick up a bunch of spells for that 1 tradition, or you can spread out and learn 4 traditions and get 8 spells. So if you continue down that road as you level up, you can know like 10 different traditions, and you're not like super powerful with any of them, but you have a lot of options available to you. But if you just want to be, I want to be the fucking fire mage, you can just go all in on fire. You can pick a master path that focuses on fire magic, because I'm sure there is one. I think there's one for all of them. A pyromancer. Yeah, you could pick a pyromancer and just be like, I'm all about fire magic. Because when you pick pyromancer, it says you discover the fire tradition or learn 1 fire spell. And you take half damage from fire. And then level 10 pyromancer, when a creature takes damage from a fire spell you cast, it must make an agility challenge roll. On a failure, it catches fire. And so you could just be, I'm all about fire, and you go all in that, you learn all the fire spells. And that's just what you do. And that's perfectly viable. Or you can be multi-talented and not be as powerful in one thing, but a jack of all trades. So that's cool right off the bat. And Warhammer did something sort of similar. It had different lores that you could learn and go into. It sort of had a similar system. It clearly is inspired by the Warhammer. But here's I already said my issue with the Warhammer Magic was it was just not accessible enough. And you can clearly see the difference in Shadow of the Demon Lord, because anybody can learn magic. If your character wants to learn magic, they will learn magic. No doubt about it. In Warhammer, it's a much bigger endeavor. And when you start your character, it's completely random, and if you want to become some sort of magic user, you can. There's nothing stopping any given character from becoming a magic user, but there's a lot of effort involved in it, and that's not true for Demon Lord. And so I much prefer that, because I like magic. I'm a big magic fan. The other bad thing about Warhammer Magic is it just doesn't seem as powerful, or at least as cool. And I'm going to be going through a lot of spells here, but like, where was one example I wanted to just pinpoint out, cherry pick. So the lore of death. This is in Warhammer. The lore of death. The magic of mortality, endings, and the passage of time. The highest level spell in the lore of death is Wind of Death. You call down a lethal wind of Sheeeeit anywhere within 48 yards. Use the large template. Those affected lose 1d10 wounds, regardless of toughness bonus or armor. That's it. That's it. That's it. 1d10 wounds. A starting character in Warhammer can have I think you can have up to 14 wounds at level 1. Well, they don't have levels, but you know what I'm saying. And yeah, it ignores toughness bonus or armor, but it's still only 1d10, and it hits all your allies if they're in the region as well. And that's the max level lore of death spell. If you go all in on the lore of death, that's what you end up with, and that's really fucking lame. Now, there are some cool stuff in here, like if you go all in on fire, you do get the Conflagration of Doom, which targets a similar area, but also hits allies. But it does, those affected take a number of damage 4 hits equal to your magic characteristic. And then it continues to attack every round until nothing in the area is left alive. So unless they flee out of the area, everything in there is going to fucking die. But they can flee. Now that's powerful because damage 4 hits is 4 damage plus a d10. And they take a number equal to your magic characteristic, which if you go all in on magic, at that point you have, I think, 5. So that's 5d10 plus 16 every round until they die or leave. So yeah, that'll kill a lot, but it also fuck up your allies completely. And that's like the stuff. That's like the strongest spell in there. In addition, like most of the magic just doesn't seem as fun or as cool as in Demon Lord. Now, maybe I'm biased because I'm just freshly reading through this thing and I just see a lot of cool stuff. But I mean, if you go to the fire thing, the max level fire spell in the core rulebook is a Bind Flame Genie. Which doesn't sound as cool, I'll be honest. Let me just check the stats on a Genie. Flame Genie is difficulty 100, which isn't that much, surprisingly, for the max level fire spell. Basically, you have difficulty 1, 10, 25, 50, 100, 250, 500, and 1,000. So 100 is not that high, considering you go up to 1,000. So, you know, the fire, I guess, is not the greatest example. But at level 1, a level 1 fire spell is Meteor. You hurl a fucking meteor at somebody and it explodes. See, that's pretty cool. This is kind of what I'm saying. Like, as you level up and go through the things, you're going to find all sorts of freaking cool shit. Whereas Warhammer, not so much. Because magic, I mean, that's by design. Magic is not meant to be used all the time. It's not meant to be that prevalent. Blah, blah, blah. But I'm sure you want to hear about all the cool stuff. So let's go into it. I'll just cherry pick some stuff. All right, so air magic. Here's a good, actually, this is a good example, because air magic, for me, that does not really excite me. You know, I hear air magic, and I'm like, you can make gusts of wind and stuff. Maybe you can fly. I don't know. But then you read Flents, which is a level 1 air magic. Targets one creature object within short range. Windborne Grit scours your target. Make a will attack roll against target strength. On a success, target takes 2d6 plus 3 damage. A living creature that becomes incapacitated by this damage dies instantly. Its flesh, if any, stripped from its bones. Now, when you put it that way, it's like, oh, all right, I can see there's some cool stuff here. And you can also have, like, you can put up, like, gales of wind around you that, like, completely fuck up any sort of projectiles coming at you or any flying creatures. Thunderclap, that's pretty cool. Fling, so you can really just send people just fucking flying with air. Like, yeah, with Fling, if they fail their roll and they have to make it with one Bane, if they're like size 1 or smaller, they're fall prone and they're moved 5d6 yards away from the origin point. 5d6 yards, that could be like 30 yards. That's pretty far. That's like just chucking them. And if they encounter a solid surface before moving the full distance, it and the surface it strikes each take 1d6 damage plus 1d6 damage per 5 yards remaining in this movement. So, yeah, you could, like, if they're right next to a wall and you just smack them as hard as you can with this gust of wind, they're going to take a fuck ton of damage. And that's at level 3. And it can hit multiple things. It's pretty cool. You can also create a Cyclone. Powerful whirlwind. Appears at one end of the area and moves along and through it, dealing 3d6 damage to anything whose space it enters. And basically just sends everything flying as it moves all the way through. And yeah, this is all hitting your allies and all sorts of stuff. But it's just fucking cool. Final air magic lets you bind a wind genie, so it's kind of disappointing. But anyways, alteration. So this lets you change the appearance. So you can basically become a shapeshifter with a level 0 alteration spell. So that's good. It doesn't last nearly as long, but that's okay. You can give somebody dark sight, so they can see in the darkness. +5 to perception. You can give somebody spider climb. This is including yourself, by the way. You can give somebody spider climb, so they can climb on walls and overhang. You can give somebody gills and flippers, so they can swim. You can alter something's size. So you can increase somebody's size to... What does it say their size is? Oh, you can either double their size or halve their size. Double their size. That means if you have a clockwork on your party, or you're a clockwork and you're size 2 because you got the massive fucking big clockwork, you can just double your size to size 4, which would give you +10 health, plus 2d6 damage on melee attacks. But if the space your target occupies is not large enough to accommodate it, target takes 5d6 damage and the effect ends immediately. So you could use it on enemies to just squish them. So awaken potential. You touch a target, their strength, agility, intellect, or will increases by 1d6 for 1 hour. That could be pretty big. A +6? +6. That's a +6 to their modifier. That can be crazy. If I gave my fucking berserker buddy +6 on all his combat attack, on all his rolls and for combat for an hour, that's just a massacre. Arcana. You get like arcane armor +2 bonus to your defense. You get magic darts, of course, like magic missile. This is like very traditional magic, but they also throw in like explosive darts in there. So the darts explode and hit things around the target. You can empower your magic, so you get boons to all your attacks rolls with spells, and anybody resisting them gets a bane. Arcane lightning. Yeah, it's pretty much force lightning. The area is a cone 5 yards long, originating from a point you can reach. So just... and lightning deals 5d6 damage to everything in the area. Agility challenge roll to take half damage. Destroy magic. All effects created by rank 3 or lower spells that affect anything in the area end immediately. Arcane retribution. This is a good one. You gain a +5 bonus to defense for the duration, which is 4 hours. The next time a creature within short range of you would get a success on an attack roll with a weapon against you, this effect ends, and the success automatically becomes a failure. So you could walk up to the fucking Demon Lord with this shit on, and he would hit you, but it would turn into a failure. And then the triggering creature must make a strength challenge roll. On a failure, it takes 10d6 damage, is moved 2d6 yards away from you, and falls prone. It takes half damage on a success. Now, the Demon Lord is probably going to succeed, but still, he would be like, what the fuck? Actually, the Demon Lord, we'll get to that, but anyway, you're not fighting the Demon Lord. But on a regular thing, that's pretty sweet. It just like, and then you fucking just blast it away from you without even blinking. 10d6 damage, 2d6 yards away from you. Prone. Battle magic, I already kind of went over this. You can augment your physical attacks. You can close your wounds, so you just like instantly heal yourself. Arc of Death targets each creature you choose that you can reach. You sweep your melee weapon around you in a deadly arc, dealing 3d6 plus 3 damage to each target. But they get an agility challenge roll to take half damage. Oh, mountain fall. Here you go. You fly up to twice your speed, then land. When you land, a shockwave spreads out through the ground in a 4-yard radius from a point within your space. Each creature on the ground must make an agility challenge roll. On a failure, the creature takes 2d6 damage and falls prone. And that's a level 2 battle spell. Again, it's just fucking cool. I don't know. It's not like all this is like... Most of this is not like original. Like this is clearly like inspired by all sorts of other things, other games, movies, shows, books, whatever. But it's all cool because, you know, there are games, there are RPGs where you can come up with any spell. You can come up with any magic you want. It doesn't matter. But to have it all here in the text and to just give you, it just, again, there's a lot in this book that just gives you, just starts the brain thinking. And I'm going over sort of the really like cool fucking battle spells and attack spells, but there are so many utility spells in this game, and that's my favorite. I mean, raining down death and destruction, that's cool, but all the utility stuff that you use outside of combat, that's what I really love, and there's so much cool shit in here. Obviously not really in the battle tradition, but Wall of Swords. A wall of slashing swords forms in the area and remains for the duration. It totally covers everything behind it. When the wall appears, everything in the area takes 5d6 damage. Creatures can move through the area treating it as difficult terrain. When it enters the area from outside, or if it's inside the area at the end of the round, it must get a success on an agility challenge roll or take 3d6 damage. So yeah. Like, if you're in like a dungeon and you're like in a corridor and you just fill it with a fucking wall of swords, like, everything in there is just dead. Now, it's a level 4 battle magic. And level 4, the levels mean not your character level. You have to have a certain number of power before you can... I mean, your level of power determines what level of spells you can cast. And so, if you start as a warrior and you go into... and you try to change later on, you're not going to get as much power. Because I think really the most power you can get from each level is 1. So like somebody that goes all mage, they might end the game with like, they might get to level 10 and have 10 power. Or 9 power or something like, I think 9 is the highest. No, 10 is the highest. But that would mean you'd have to have an ancestry that starts... Oh no. Yeah, because level 4 is an ancestry bonus. So you'd have to have an ancestry that gives a power bonus at level 4. I don't know if there are any. At least in the core rulebook, I don't know if there are any. Maybe human? This is... No, not even human. Not even human. So, I guess, yeah, as far as the core rulebook is concerned, 9 is the highest power you can get. If you go all magic for every one of your choices. You know, if you flip-flop around and if you finally switch to magic for your master path, you might only end up with, like, 2 power. So you can cast level 2 spells. If you switch at your expert path, you might end up with 5 power. So, but you know, if you're a fighter, you know, there are paths that are meant to be sort of battle mages. It's not like you're picking a fighter path or you're picking a mage path. There are paths that are designed to be a hybrid. And so they'll give power, but they'll also give you like bonus health and things like that for fighting. And so if you're going to pick magic, you know, you can, and you're a fighter type, you're frontline fighter, you could do worse than the battle school. We're already a half an hour in. I'm on C now. Celestial. Spells from the Celestial tradition call on the light and energy of the sun and stars to drive back the darkness spreading across the world. So, yeah, like the level 0 cantrip is like Burning Beam. A fiery beam leaps from your hand. Make a will attack roll against the target's agility. On a success, the target takes 1d6 damage. But if you roll a 20 or higher on your attack roll, they also become blinded for a round. So, it's level 0, so it's very basic, but it's just something for the magician at level 0 to do, or the priest to do, I guess. Just... Flash. So you can do that sort of Dragon Ball Z. God, I haven't watched it in forever. I forgot what that's called, where they like do the blinding flare or whatever. Yeah, you can sort of just blind somebody. Rainbow Burst. That just dazes a bunch of creatures. Dazing is pretty good in this game because they cannot use any actions as long as they're dazed. So that's a pretty good support ability. Dawn, you can create sunlight spreading through the area for the duration, which is an hour. And there are some creatures that are really weak to sunlight. Like if you're fighting a vampire and you have a celestial priest or something that can create sunlight in like a dark dungeon and just like that vampire is fucking dead. I don't even know if the rules are in here. Let me just check if the vampire is in the bestiary. God, we haven't even gotten to the bestiary. Fucking vampire. Yeah, here. Oh yeah, at the end of the round, a vampire takes 2d6 damage if it's in an area lit by sunlight. And he also takes double damage from celestial spells. I mean, I guess it would depend on the DM, but I would probably say that's 4d6 damage at the end of the round if your priest is making sunlight like that. Because that's a celestial spell that's making the sunlight. It's not natural sunlight. So that would be pretty fucking deadly. But there's a supplement that I was reading that talks about vampires and lets you play as a vampire. And so for the player character as a vampire, it seemed even more devastating than that. It just seemed, especially because player characters tend to have lower health than monsters. And so there was just like, oh, you're dead. If you're in sunlight for like more than 20 seconds, you're just fucking dead. Let's see here. Radiation. Yeah, you fucking spread radiation. I don't know why it's a celestial spell. But basically, you just make things take damage, and you make them fatigued. Okay, Starfall. Basically, you shoot a fucking star at somebody, and it explodes. That's pretty cool. But here, this is a Sunbeam. This is the highest level celestial spell. This is literally the Kamehameha. I actually looked through the rest of all the spells. I was like, does anything compare to this as far as a Kamehameha is concerned? This is it. And it's not like super powerful, but it's called Sunbeam. Area, a line 25 yards long and 1 yard wide, originating from a point you can reach. So you're literally like just, and it goes out 25 yards, a yard wide. You loose a beam of brilliant blazing light from your hand, dealing 3d6 plus 3 damage to everything in the area. Each creature that takes damage this way must make a strength challenge roll. Becomes blinded for 1 minute on a failure or just takes half damage on a success. Now 3d6 plus 3 damage is not a super duper amount from a level 5 spell. But it does hit a lot and it can blind things, which can really change the combat. But it does potentially hit your allies, so most things do. Chaos magic. Chaos spells draw on destructive magic, making them unpredictable and dangerous. So, erratic bolt. Sparkling, fizzling blob of color flies from your hand. Blah, blah, blah. On a success, target takes 1d6 damage. After the attack roll, roll a d6. On a 6, repeat the attack against a different target, friend or foe, within medium range. So, okay. So if you're only fighting a single target, Erratic Bolt is not a great choice because if you have to roll the d6, and if you get a 6, you have to target something, which is probably going to be one of your buddies. This is going to take way too long if I just read everything, so I'll just read like the starting spell and like the last spell and maybe other stuff. So the max chaos spell is Singularity. That's pretty good. It's a sphere with a 10-yard radius centered on a point in space within long range. So you could shoot this real far. A rolling clot of color appears at the origin point and remains for the duration. When you cast the spell, unsecured objects in the area are moved 2d6 yards towards the origin point. Each creature within the area, when you cast a spell, or that enters the area, makes a strength challenge roll with 1 bane. On a failure, the creature is moved 2d6 yards towards the origin point and cannot move away from it for the duration. Oof. Any creature or object that reaches that point takes 10d6 damage. If it becomes incapacitated by this damage, it is erased utterly from existence, its body and soul vanishing forever. When the effect ends, the clot explodes, dealing 4d6 damage to everything in the spell's area. That's nice. Conjuration. So starting out, you can conjure like a small item that if it's not worth too much, or you can conjure food for your group. You can go on to conjure small monsters, medium monster. You can conjure horses for your group. You can conjure a wall. You can conjure a shelter. So you can create an entire fucking building. If you conjure a building, you make all decisions about what it looks like, such as entrances, windows, and the number of rooms. It includes beds for up to 10 people, chairs, tables, enough food and drink to sustain up to 10 people, and a hearth complete with a burning fire. I mean, you could get to design the entire building. I can imagine there could be some shenanigans with that. But not only that, you can also create, with that same ability, instead of a building, you can create an island. If you conjure an island, you provide accommodations for up to 10 people as if you had created a building, but in the form of bungalows or huts. I don't know how often you'll be creating islands, but that's pretty funny. Finally, you can conjure a huge monster, so that's pretty good. Curse. So curse is the first, what do they call it? Dark magic? Something like that. Yeah, dark magic. So in the core rulebook, there are 3 traditions that are dark. They're counted as dark magic. That's curse, forbidden, and necromancy. And so when you can learn a dark magic usually at any time. But when you do, you gain 1 corruption immediately. And then anytime you learn a spell from a dark magic, you have to roll a d6. If the number is less than the total number of dark magic spells you've learned, you gain another corruption. But each dark magic spell you learn grants 1 boon on challenge rolls you make to avoid gaining insanity. So let me just flip back. We're almost at 40 minutes. We got plenty of time. Let me just talk about insanity and corruption real quick. So insanity, you gain insanity from certain spells, as well as sort of classic Call of Cthulhu type stuff. If you see something horrific or blah blah blah, you have a risk of gaining insanity. You have to make a will challenge roll. Depending on how fucked up it is, if it's the fucking demon lord or whatever, you might have a number of banes on that will challenge roll. And if you fail, you gain 1 insanity. You become frightened for a number of rounds equal to your new insanity total. And when your insanity total reaches your will score, you go mad. And so then you roll a d20 on the madness chart. And when your madness ends, you reduce your insanity total by 1d6 plus your will modifier, with a minimum of 1. So if you're really not, your will sucks, and you fucked up the roll or something like that, you could only lose 1 insanity from from where you were at. So you might go mad almost immediately afterwards. But when you go mad, you get the d20 roll. Yeah, I mean, most of this stuff is pretty traditional. Self-mutilation, sickened, hallucinations, panic, confusion, rage, revelation. If you roll a 20, you reduce your insanity total by 1d6. You permanently make all will challenge rolls to resist gaining insanity with 1 boon. So that's pretty normal. You can remove insanity by gaining quirks. This is interesting. So you can say, yeah, I want to gain a quirk to reduce my insanity, and so the DM actually decides your quirk because he's gonna choose to be make it relevant to whatever gave you insanity. And then you reduce your insanity total by 1d6 plus your will modifier. And quirks can be all sorts of things, a compulsive behavior, a phobia, or another condition that permanently affects your character. So you could get an addiction, you could have some sort of weird habit, you could, all sorts of stuff. It's sort of like a lesser madness, I guess, that affects you pretty much permanently. But you can reduce your insanity. Like, if you're worried about going mad in the middle of combat, or you really don't want to go mad most of the time, because some of this is really bad. This could easily get you killed. And in fact, if you roll a 1 on the madness table, your heart stops and you die. So that's always a 5% chance whenever you go mad. So that's no good. Corruption. So I just talked about corruption with dark magic stuff. Normally you start with 0. You can get corruption from dark magic. You can get corruption from some other effects. But you can also gain corruption at the DM's discretion. Any time that your character does something that's just evil, he can give out corruption points. So this includes murder. That happens. Harming an innocent by spreading a disease, poisoning a well, or being reckless with magic. Being reckless with magic. If it gets somebody hurt, an innocent person, that's corruption. Stealing for personal gain. Holy shit. Using certain relics can also increase your corruption. And so there is a corruption effect thing here. From 0 to 3, there's no effect. 4 to 6, you make attack rolls to interact with other creatures in social settings with 1 bane. As well, animals become hostile around you and children might cry. So attack rolls in social settings, that's basically like trying to persuade somebody or lie to them or whatever. So you get a bane anytime you try to, roll to talk to somebody. 7 through 8. You take a -1 penalty on d6 rolls to decide your fate while you're incapacitated. So it's basically like there are death saving throws basically, but it's a d6, so death comes a bit quicker. Well, it can. So from 7 to 8 corruption, you take a -1 penalty when you're dying, to see if you die for real, because basically hell is trying to claim your soul. Hell desperately wants your corrupted ass soul, because all the demons down there feed off corruption. So you're delicious at that point. In addition, you exhibit a physical sign of corruption, such as a sore that never heals, weird marks on the skin, loss of fingernails, or some other cosmetic change. If you have 9 or more corruption, you die if you become incapacitated. That means the second you hit 0 health, you are dead. And you cannot be restored to life. Your soul is trapped in hell. So it's not like completely debilitating effects if you have a lot of corruption. So you can murder, you can steal, you can use all the dark necromancy, forbidden magic you want, but you better not get to 0 health. That's all I'm gonna say, because you're fucking done. No options. In addition, there's also the marks of darkness. So whenever you gain corruption, you roll a d20. If the number is less than your new corruption score, you get a new mark of darkness. So basically, if you have 1 corruption, you don't get a mark of darkness because you can't roll less than a 1. But with more corruption, more and more, you're going to end up with marks of darkness every time you gain corruption. And these can be pretty bad. You can only eat rotten, spoiled food. You vomit up anything else within minutes. You never cast a reflection in mirrors. A pair of horns grow from your forehead. Your nose rots away, leaving a dark crater in your face that leaks bloody mucus. That's nice. Once each week, a child within 1 mile of you sickens and dies. Yeah, that's happy. So yeah, people are gonna fucking see that you're you're clearly just a vile creature that should be hunted down. And there are witch hunters. You will be hunted down at some point, so that's interesting. But the dark magic is really fucking cool, so you might be tempted. What are we at? 45 minutes. Okay, there's a lot of talking. Okay, so curses. This starts out with like hexes that basically give targets boons, banes, or curses them in other ways. You can put a pox on somebody so their body erupts in green weeping blisters. So they become frightened and they take damage. Pain, basically, whenever a target takes damage for a next minute, it takes 1d6 extra damage, so that's kind of a support ability. Then it moves on later to actually, like, transforming people into, like, pigs and toads. Their final spell is Petrify, which, on a success, target takes 7d6 plus 10 damage and becomes slowed for 1 minute. If they become incapacitated by this damage, it instantly dies and turns into a stone statue. Destruction. Oh, this is a really cool one. This is a contender for when I play. I might go with Destruction Magic. Because it's all about just fucking breaking shit. So, Break. This is the level 0 spell. It's against one size, half, or smaller object within short range. So this is only objects. You take 1 damage, and then the target takes damage equal to its health. So it instantly breaks. So, I mean, it would depend on, how the DM defines exactly half size for objects. Because they don't exactly fit into neat, like, humanoid targets. Like, I mean, for, like, a rope, if I just want to target, like, a part of the rope, how does the length of the rope matter? Or, I don't know. What else do we got? Rend. Oh, this is a good one. One creature you can see within short range. Take 2 damage. Make a will attack against the target's agility. On a success, the target takes 3d6 plus 1 damage. 3d6 plus 1 within short range. And that's a level 1 spell. I thought that was pretty good. Also at level 2, you get Entropic Power. For 1 minute, you take 3 damage, and then for the duration, your attack spells deal 1d6 extra damage. It's pretty good. Detonate. One size 1 or smaller object that was never a creature that you can see within medium range. See, it's important they say never. It was never a creature, because clockworks can change between creatures and objects. And so if they didn't have that, and it was like a size 1 clockwork, you could just fucking detonate it from range. But Break doesn't say that. So if there's a clockwork that's half size, you could just instantly kill it if its key is not cranked. But Detonate, you take 4 damage. The target takes damage equal to its health and then explodes in a 4-yard radius, dealing 66 damage to everything in the area from flying debris. That's fun. Destroy. One size 3 or smaller creature or object you can see within medium range. Take 5 damage. The target takes 30 damage. No d6s. Just boom, 30 damage. That's really like consistent damage. That's pretty good. Finally, Disintegrate. You take 6 damage. It's against a creature with a physical body or an object within long range. On a success, target takes 9d6 damage. Creature incapacitated by this damage dies immediately and is reduced to a small pile of dust in the space it occupied. Nice. Divination is sort of pretty much all utility spells. There's no attacks for Divination, but basically it lets you eavesdrop, or actually Epiphany is a triggered spell you can use whenever you roll a d20, and it lets you re-roll the d20 and use the higher number. So it basically gives you 5th edition advantage, but as a trigger. So you can use that. I'm not sure if you can use it after or before you roll the d20. I'm not exactly. It says when you make a challenge roll or an attack roll, you roll the d20 dice and use the higher number. So I think it's before, but still, it's pretty good if you really want to succeed. That's a level 0 Epiphany thing, and that can affect anything. Like, that's a really good thing. If you're just dipping your toes into magic, that would probably be pretty useful. Augur, you can ask the game master one question that can be answered yes or no. There's stuff like that in here. Truth ear, for the duration you understand all spoken languages you hear, and you recognize the truth when you hear it. That's pretty good. Blah blah blah. Clairvoyance basically lets you see any space within a mile of you, but you have to have seen it at least once. That's no good. Yeah, divination, I probably wouldn't ever interested in go too far into that. Earth magic. So it starts out with like earth spikes. So basically just summon a big spike of earth under somebody. Takes 1d6 damage and falls prone. Shape earth and stone. One size, one or smaller object made from earth or stone you can reach. You can mold the target as if it were made from soft clay. That's pretty cool. Stone blades. Tremor. Basically make everybody fall down and cannot stand for the duration. Eruption. There's some cool stuff in here. Earthquake. A circle on the ground with a radius of 20 yards. It's pretty big. Ground shakes and heaves violently in the area. Becomes difficult terrain. At the end... Oh. When you cast a spell and at the end of each round for the duration, any structure in contact with the area takes 2d6 damage. A structure destroyed by this damage collapses, and everything inside or under it takes 4d6 plus 10 damage. Creatures on top of the structure might take falling damage when it collapses. Wow, you can fuck up some cities with that shit. And then level 5 lets you bind an earth genie. I think that's for all the elemental schools. They let you bind a genie. Enchantment. So this is sort of the beguiling school. This lets you bewitch, charm, compel. So this is sort of using enemies to join your side. This is pretty traditional stuff. I won't go into it. You can implant a suggestion. You can describe a course of activity that is obviously not suicidal and can be summarized in a sentence or two. And then they must perform the described activity if the trigger occurs at any time within the next 8 hours. So you have to give them a trigger as well. Finally, the level 5 is Enslave. So, so basically it becomes charmed forever? It doesn't have a duration. Oh, whenever it takes damage, it can make a will challenge roll, removing the affliction on a success. Well, I mean, in combat that wouldn't be that great. But for like political purposes, if you can enslave like the emperor or something, that could be big. Fire, I already kind of went over this. You start off with like being able to control flames and shooting flame missiles. You get meteor, fireball, very classic. Immolate, so you can just start somebody on fire. Wall of flames, it's pretty good. And then bind flame genie. Forbidden. All right, here's another dark magic. I gotta read a bunch of these because this is some of the coolest shit. So here we go. Hateful defecation. Oh, before I read that. So how it works normally is as you gain more power, you get a number of spell casts per spell. So it's not like Vancian. So at power 1, you get 2 casts of level 0 spells and 1 cast of level 1 spells. That means for every level 0 spell you get 2 casts of each one. So it's not like 2 casts across all your level 0s. Each one you can cast twice. And again, it just encourages magic all day, every day. And normally whenever you rest for 8 hours, you get all your spells back. But for forbidden magic, After you complete a rest, you must sacrifice a creature to the dark powers to regain expended castings of your forbidden spells. So you have to fucking sacrifice something. I mean, it could just be a goat, but still, if somebody catches you sacrificing a goat in the inn in town or something like that, like, I have some splaining to do. Alright, Hateful Defecation. This is a level 1 forbidden magic. The target's guts twist and rumble noisily. If the target's health is 10 or less, it dies instantly, streams of blood and feces gushing from all of its orifices. Now, I realize there are plenty of people that does not interest them whatsoever. They don't want to hear about feces and guts, and they do not like grim, dark fantasy or anything like it. They like happy, heroic fantasy. Lord of the Rings, Tolkien, yeah! But, you know, for me, I started playing Diablo when I was 6 years old. I've grown up with grim fantasy. I love it. And so when I see a picture like that, I got to show you this picture. Hold on. See this? Like this is forbidden magic right there. I don't know if you can really tell this guy over here. I'm pretty sure his penis exploded. Can you see that? Anyways. Blah, blah, blah. The damage incapacitates target. Excrement, organs, and blood explode from its body, which instantly brings about its death. In addition, each creature within 2 yards of a point within the target's space must make a will challenge roll. On a failure, it becomes impaired for 1 round, just by the fucking vileness of it. Tongue Rip. Yeah, it's less violent than it sounds, but just wait. So Tongue Rip, basically, you make an intellect attack roll against somebody. On a success, your tongue forks and you take over the target's mouth for as long as you concentrate, up to 1 hour. Whenever you speak, you can do so from your mouth or the target's mouth, provided you are within 1 mile of the target. When you speak from the target's mouth, it uses its own voice. Again, that has it has very little combat potential. I mean, you could use it in combat to try and confuse the enemy, but think of, again, like the utility, like the political thing, all sorts of shenanigans you can get up to with that. It's just awesome. You can fill somebody's stomach with hungry maggots. Oh, Vision's End. This is a level 2 spell. The target's eyes bulge and strain in its head. If its health is 15 or less, it takes 2d6 damage and becomes blinded as its eyes explode. Otherwise, you have to roll. Blah, blah, blah. It becomes blind as long as you concentrate. At the end of each round, until the effect ends, the target must make a strength challenge roll, taking 1d6 damage on a failure. If it gets 3 failures before the effect ends, the blinded affliction becomes permanent. The target's eyes burst, ocular juices painting its face. Excellent. Oh, this is one of my favorites. The forbidden magic, it's just great. Part bone from flesh. Level 3 spell. Target's bones shift under its skin. Make an intellect attack roll against its strength. On a success, the target takes 66 damage. If the target becomes incapacitated by this damage, it dies instantly. Its bones tear free from flesh to become an animated corpse of the target's size that occupies its former space. The animated corpse attacks the creature nearest to it each round, choosing its target randomly. So you fucking tear somebody's skeleton away from their flesh, and then that skeleton beats all of his friends to death. It's just great. Soul exchange. You can fucking swap 2 targets' souls. It's like sort of in Dragon Ball Z with the Ginyu dude. They swap souls. So they retain like their brain and like their insanity and their languages and stuff, but they swap bodies. Now, this is what I thought of immediately. Was like, okay, you could do that in combat, I suppose. You could swap like 2 enemies' minds or something, confuse the fuck out of them or whatever. But what if you carry around like a cage full of mice? And you just like swap one of the mice brains with like the big bad enemy dude's brains and just whoosh. And it's like, okay, you got the big bad dude as a mouse. What the fuck is he gonna do? You can just squash him or something. But over there, the big bad dude now is just like, oh god, he doesn't know how to kill you. He's a mouse. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And it's not like if you fail the roll against like the big bad dude, like all that happens to the mouse is it just becomes dazed for a minute. So you don't care. The mouse isn't doing anything anyways, so it's not like it dies. You can keep reusing that mouse over and over until you successfully swap souls. It's great. That's what I would do. The level 5 forbidden magic is horrid joining. You join two people's bodies together. They don't even have to be standing next to each other. Anything. They have to be within short range of each other, which is fairly close, but on a battlefield, they'll be probably within short range of each other. And they take 3d6 damage, and then they both merge together into a single creature. Which, yes, I would absolutely do to one of my friends. I would find I would merge him and the big bad dude and just let God sort it out. I don't know. That's brilliant. Oh, the forbidden magic. It's so cool. Oh, we're only on I. There's so much more magic to go. All right, I'll skip over stuff. You can just read this book all day. So life magic, you can heal, you can resurrect, blah, blah, blah. Nature magic, you can make fiery pine cones, so yes, you can be Gandalf. Necromancy, there's another dark magic. This is mostly what you'd expect. You can animate corpses, harvest souls, shrieking skull, seal the underworld's gates, army of the dead. How many? You get 2d6 compelled animated corpses to fight for you. Primal magic, so this is kind of like barbarian shit, but it lets you summon animals to your side. Beast within, so you can sort of get fangs and claws. You befriend animal if you're into that. Pounce, so that's again sort of just combat kind of stuff. Protection magic, this is all utility stuff, like for protecting items and doors, magic locks, force fields, protection from spells, globes of negation. So you can put yourself in a globe of negation and not a single spell ever can touch you. Well, for the most part. Runes, so you can put runes on creatures, objects, weapons. Rune of power. You can put this on you can put this on a creature. They make all attack rolls and challenge rolls with 2 boons for an hour. They gain plus 20 bonus to health and deal 1d6 extra damage with any attack. That's really good for an hour. Again, like it's really, if you put that thing and that other thing I was talking about, I don't even remember what spell that was, where I told you to put it on your berserker and it'll fucking go ham. If you combine that 2 shit, oh my god, awaken potential. That was it. If you gave him plus 6 to strength, 2 boons on all his attacks, and dealing 1d6 extra damage. Shadow magic. Let's see. You can summon a blade at any time. You can make walls of darkness. Dark sight. You can summon a shadow monster. Shadow stride. Ooh, you can jump between shadows. When you enter a space obscured by shadows or darkness, you can instantly exit from an open space obscured by shadows or darkness within medium range. So you can jump between shadows. That's really good for when you're sneaking. Dark portals. You can summon dark fucking portals. That's pretty cool. Songs. So this is all the bard shit. Yeah, I won't read that to you. Storm magic. So this is how you make fog. Forked lightning. You can call lightning. Poisonous fog. Hailstorms. Acid rain. Oh, man. For 1 minute, acid rain falls. At the end of each round, for anything in there, they take 3d6 damage if they don't have shelter. That'd be good. Leaping lightning. That's kind of a lame name. Technomancy. Oh my god, technomancy. Yes. I want to be using fucking forbidden magic with technomancy. So this is merges magic with machinery. So you get you can make a fucking sentry gun. Literally. I'm going to read this to you. Bolt thrower. You create a size 1 crossbow turret in the area. The turret has defense 5 and health equal to your intellect score. It lasts for the duration or until destroyed. At the end of each round, the turret fires at one target creature or object within long range. Make an intellect attack roll against the target's defense. On a success roll, the target takes 2d6 damage. So, as far as I can tell, you're not manning the turret. It's shooting automatically. This is a level 1 spell. You fucking make a turret. Flamethrower. This is a level 2 spell. You make a flamethrower. You can use an action to expend a use which loose flames across a line 5 yards long, 1 yard wide. Deals 2d6 damage to everything in the area. And then the flamethrower explodes when the creature wielding it takes damage from fire or lightning. Flames fill a sphere with 5 yard radius originating from a point in the creature's space, dealing 1d6 damage per unexpended use to everything in the area. Oh my god, so you could be like, here, you can give a flamethrower to the enemy, you're like, good luck with that, and then you shoot a fucking fire spell at it, and it explodes. And that would do like 6d6 damage at level 2. The combo wombos. Grenades. Level 2 spell, you throw 3 grenades. I mean, some people don't want that in their fantasy game, and I understand, but if it's in the fucking core rulebook, I'm rolling with it. Level 4 Technomancy. Powered suit. You concentrate for 1 hour, during which time you create a powered battle suit. A huge construct. It cannot use actions or move independently. You must move into its cockpit to control it. You control a fucking huge construct. I mean, we didn't even get to the bestiary. But, oh man. Where the hell was the constructs? Here, huge construct. It's got 100 health, 17 strength. So while you're in that suit, you have 17 strength. And you do 3d6 damage. Oh, and you can attack twice with a single action. That's fucking awesome, man. This book is so good. Teleportation magic. Lets you do a lot of teleporting and swapping and moving around. You can teleport up to 5 willing creatures at level 5. Blah, blah, blah. Theurgy magic. This is all the basic holy shit. Fire from heaven. Summons down a great fiery cylinder. Time magic. Yeah, there's some cool stuff in here. For 1 minute, once per round for the duration, when you roll a die, you can discard the number and roll the die again. You must use the second number. That would be interesting for a whole minute. That's like every roll you make for that for a whole encounter. That's pretty good. I would definitely be interested in time magic. Precognition. For the duration, attack rolls against you are made with 1 bane. You make challenge rolls to resist attacks with 1 boon. Time jump. You jump forward in time, disappearing from your space. At any time during the duration, which is 1 minute, you can reappear in the space you left, or in the nearest open space. So that's basically like, yeah, enjoy the combat, guys. But also, that's useful for stealth. Like, if there's a patrol coming and you're just like, fuck, I got nothing. You just jump forward in time. That's pretty good. I assume you can't see anything while you're jumped forward. Like, you instantly just, boom. But, I mean, for 1 minute, the patrol should probably be gone. But the DM could screw you. Twain Self is level 4 time magic. Your future self appears in the area. For the duration, you and your future self take a turn each round. Though the paradox causes you both to make attack rolls and challenge rolls with 1 bane. So he has the same... You and your future self are the same creature and have identical attributes, characteristics, and abilities. So how far in the future is this? Like, he didn't get any stronger? What happened, man? Any damage taken by either version applies to the same damage total. If either of you become incapacitated, the other does as well. If you die, your future self disappears. Well, okay. Interesting. Oh, when the effect ends, you and your future self disappear. You reappear 1 minute later. So I think the future self is like you a minute from now. Level 5 time magic. This is great. Time travel. Choose a moment in time up to 100 years in the future. You disappear from existence. When time in the game catches up to the time you chose, you immediately reappear. Like, what a just Yeah, fuck this game. I'm gonna go 100 years in the future. I mean, I like that they put the 100-year limit there, but it's just like, why would you ever go 100 years in the future? But I mean, I guess if you get captured, and you're like, well, I'm just gonna go like a year in the future, and we'll see where I am. I don't know. That seems like such a weird ability, but there you go. Transformation. So this lets you take on different forms. Oh, this is sort of the shape-shifting thing. So you can take on somebody else's appearance, but not to the same degree. You can only increase or decrease your height by 12 inches, weight up to 25%, blah, blah, blah. Animal shape, you can take on the form of a medium, small, or tiny animal for 1 minute. You can become a cloud. Improved animal shape, you can become a large animal for an hour. You can become the form of an object. You can become a bucket of water if you want. Mist form. You can become, your body becomes like metal. Your defense becomes 20. Holy shit. You cannot be moved against your will, but you're slowed. Greater animal shape. You can become a huge animal. What the fuck is it? Are there, how many huge animals are there? What are we at? An hour and 11. Well, it is what it is. Oh, I think, no, what the hell? Do they have any huge animals? Oh, it just says, yeah, so I didn't get to the bestiary, and I guess I won't, but they have a lot of sort of what you'd expect from the bestiary. It's a pretty big one, but they also have like sort of generic templates, because they don't need to describe like every different animal. So they'll just say like huge animal, and they'll all have sort of the same stats, and you can swap things around pretty easily and give them different abilities if you want. But so a huge animal has 80 health, 16 strength. Huge animals include dinosaurs, elephants, rhinoceroses, hippopotami, and giant versions of large animals. So you could become a giant gorilla. Anyways, that's cool. Water magic. This lets you freeze water, create geysers, waves, tsunamis, water genies. Cold snap lets you instantly freeze water and water-based liquids, including potions. So this deals 76 damage to everything in the area. Creature becomes incapacitated by this damage, freezes solid, and dies instantly. Oh, that was the end of magic. Good, I got through that. Now that's the end of magic in the core rulebook. Again, the supplemental magic, I could make a whole other video just about that shit, because there's so much cool stuff. Blood magic and telekinesis magic, telepathy magic. You can go into the monks and what they can do, and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, okay. I'm not gonna make a third video. I gotta wrap this up. So the setting is sort of generic high fantasy, but again, it's much grimmer, it's much darker. There's the elf thing going on, there's clockworks. Goblins and orcs are a bit more widespread, and with the default setting, orcs used to be like the complete slave race, like the empire of man. That was the dominant power. They used orcs for all their slave labor and for their army and things like that. So orcs were just complete slaves. But just recently, orcs like threw off their shackles, and there was a complete revolt, a rebellion of all the orcs, and they fucking won. And so the orc king strangled the emperor and now took over the throne. So the emperor is now an orc, and like all the orcs and all the towns and stuff established like martial law. And so a lot of the cities and stuff in the empire is now like controlled by orcs, which is really interesting. That's a really cool setting. But there is the shadow of the demon lord. And I know if you're like me, when you first heard this, I thought it was a bad title. I thought it was a bad title for a game, because it sounds like a campaign book. You know, it sounds like a campaign that, this is the Shadow of the Demon Lord campaign. And that's really kind of what it seems like. I feel like the guy had a campaign, in D&D that he called the Shadow of the Demon Lord. And he's like, wait, I should make a game about this. And he couldn't think of a better name for the game, for the actual system. So he just went Shadow of the Demon Lord. But what the Shadow of the Demon Lord is I guess like the Demon Lord is the most powerful of powerful things in existence. Like, he's not even statted. He's that powerful. And there are some other really powerful stuff as well. But he's that powerful. And he wants to break through his cage because he's locked away somewhere. He wants to break out so that he can devour the entire cosmos, pretty much. But he can't at this point. But the cage is sort of fractured enough that his shadow leaks out. And so his shadow starts influencing things across the setting, across the world. And so there is a rule section. It's optional. It is optional. You don't have to do this. But there is a rule section for determining what the Shadow of the Demon Lord does. And this can influence the entire campaign in a really interesting way. Okay, I'm getting there. Okay. So, at the start of the campaign, if you want, you can roll on the Shadow of the Demon Lord table. It's a d20 roll. And this really can alter the entire campaign that you're about to play. So by default, the default setting that I just told you, with the orcs and all that, that's a number 8 on the table. The Fall of Civilization. And Fall of Civilization is sort of a generic one that can encompass all sorts of stuff. But they say here, yeah, civilization collapses and chaos reigns. This effect is a default assumption of the game world. And so you can do all sorts of stuff with Fall of Civilization. But I think if you did get that, the orc one is pretty cool. But, oh man, there's so much cool shit here. And there's a supplement that goes into much greater detail about all of these 20 different things. But I'll just read a couple real quick. So number 1 is called Black Sun. The shadow eclipses the sun, turning it black. Impossibly, light still emanates from the shadow disk, but it is brown, sickly, and unwholesome. The sun's gentle warmth becomes a hellish furnace, destroying life as the landscape becomes a bone-strewn dust bowl. And again, that changes your entire fucking campaign, because it starts off pretty minute. It's just like, oh, the sun's weird, it's darker out, blah, blah, blah. But as time goes on, it says here, the mechanical effects, from 9 to 11 a.m. and 2 to 4 p.m., you make all d20 rolls with 1 Bane. From 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., all rolls with 2 Banes, if you're, like, out in the sun, because it's fucking hot as hell. And so it starts to get really devastating. The supplement that expands on all this goes into much greater detail about how this affects, like, all the entire, like, empire and crops, and all sorts, like, famine sets in, like, all sorts of shit. Really sort of, and it doesn't, like, overrule any other thoughts you had about what you wanted for the campaign, but, and again, this is an optional thing, you don't have to do any of this, but it's like, you know, the core campaign for the system is stopping the Demon Lord, because he's eventually going to make it out unless you eventually stop him. And so this is just sort of figuring out, like, okay, the shadow is affecting the sun. The sun is eventually just going to destroy the world, and then the Demon Lord is going to get out and destroy the cosmos. How do we stop that? How do we fix that? And that's where it's like, okay, it doesn't explicitly tell you how to run it, you know, or why is this happening, how to stop it. And so that's where the campaign comes from. It's like, okay, this is in effect. Why is it happening? How do I stop it? Who can help us stop it? Who do we have to kill to stop it? Whatever. Okay, Bloom. The shadow infuses flora with malevolent power, causing plants to shoot up to astonishing size. Forests spring up overnight. Vines swallow cities. Overland travel becomes almost impossible. In this new environment, strange creatures skulk through grasses a dozen feet tall or higher to make a meal of whatever they can grab. Again, like, it just fucking, that sets the campaign. You have basically like 20 interesting campaign ideas here for a dark fantasy game. And again, it's all optional. But a lot of the times, you know, instead of just like, oh yeah, there's we're starting a new campaign, and there's an evil necromancer or something, and blah blah blah, or coming up with these generic stuff like this. Again, a lot of stuff in this book is just there to get the brain turning and get interesting characters in an interesting campaign. And so the Shadow of the Demon Lord does. You got Curse of the Beast Men, Demonic Incursion, the Dragon Awakens. So there's like a dragon that's living inside of a mountain, and suddenly the mountain top just like fucking explodes, and this giant Deathwing dragon flies out and just starts burning the entire country. And, as the players, when they're starting out, they just sort of like hear about this at first. They hear rumors about this giant dragon, and then at some point they'll actually like witness it in the distance, just, and they're like, how the fuck do we stop that? Because the player should want to stop that. That's the idea, I guess. Dreams of the Dead God. There's basically like some sort of Cthulhu monster is slumbering underneath the earth, and he's starting to like wake up, and his dreams like affect the world, and like chunks of rock start like floating, or the lakes start to like rain upwards, and all sorts of just like weird effects happen. That's what you do if you want a weird campaign. Infestation, invaders. Yeah, fucking invaders from another dimension or reality like start spilling through portals into the world to try and take it over. But then, like, other demons can, like, fucking appear, and there's, like, a giant war between the two. And I didn't even get to the bestiary part, where I gotta show you this. This video is way too long, but I have to show you this because it's just too cool. This is some nerdy fucking shit. Ugh, God, there's so many. The bestiary is so long. I'm gonna get to it. Here we go. Tell me what this makes you think of. Yeah, if your answer is The Matrix, you're fucking correct. I'll read the description. Reen. The Reen do not belong in the world. They are invaders from another universe, one imperiled by the Demon Lord. The people from that world dispatch Reen into the void to locate a suitable world in which they might start again and to prepare the way. A Reen looks like a tangle of metallic, segmented tentacles that meet at a central ball with a single glowing red eye. It flies through the air or pulls itself along with its tentacles. Yeah, so it's just... And then they explode when they die. It's the fucking machines from the Matrix. So those can invade. And now I lost my page. I'm never going to find it again, so I don't know. I don't know. There's all sorts of other pages discussing the setting in detail and discussing, like, there's a lot of rules. There's rules, of course, for, fire damage and falling damage and deprivation, going hungry, starving, dehydration, exposure, disease, traps, there's all those sorts of rules like that. But honestly, the rule system is incredibly simple. With 4 attributes, the very basic rolling system, D20, most challenge rolls are 10. Most of the time, for attacks, you're either rolling against their defense or you're rolling against an attribute. It's very simple. The numbers are very confined within the 20 limit. And it's just fucking great because it's very simple to learn. But there's so much potential here, with the magic system, with the path system. The setting itself I really like, but it's not like restrictive. You can strip out the horror almost entirely from this game. You just remove the insanity system, you remove the forbidden magic stuff. You don't do the Shadow of the Demon Lord, and you just handpick your enemies that you use. You can just do straight up D&D in here and have a great time. But for me, I really like the setting, the theme, and all that. And so I've talked for almost 3 hours now about Shadow of the Demon Lord. It seems really great. I can't wait to play. I want to run stuff in it. I want to play in it. I want to use forbidden magic. I want to use technomancy. I want the fucking Shadow of the Demon Lord to just destroy the planet. I want all sorts of stuff. I want I want my buddy to play a Clockwork so I can just take his key away or something. Like, I don't know. I want to play it. Other reviews that I read said it was the best D20 system that they've ever read or played or anything. It's replaced D&D for them. That's pretty good. And with all the support that the writer, the company has for it, all the supplements and additional things going for it, there is a lot to love. And so, yeah, I guess I recommend it. Although I guess I should play it first. But even just this book to read, there's so much cool shit in here I didn't get to talk about. We really didn't get to go through the bestiary much at all. And there's a lot of magic utility spells that I skipped over. But, yeah, I guess that's enough. I'll talk about it more, I'm sure, in Hanging with Mang. And there will be some streams of it probably, so... Good stuff. I would say it's probably just going to overall replace Warhammer. I mean, I heard about people that run Warhammer adventures and campaigns just using this system, just transferring over, and they said it worked really well. So, yeah, I guess maybe I'm done with Warhammer. But there's a 4th edition of that coming out, so you never know. But it would have to be pretty good to improve on Shadow the Demon Lord overall. Alright, I'm done. That's some nerdy shit. My name is Mang. This has been an overview of Shadow of the Demon Lord. And I'll see you fine folks around.